everyone and welcome to another Foul Original. This video is made in part thanks to the Foul Original people over on Patreon, patreon.com/fouloriginal. More details towards the end of this video. This week we look at one of the most intriguing and successful factions in professional wrestling, how an idea based on a cable TV show brought new life and gave character to wrestlers who may have otherwise been lost in the shuffle. A shadowy group that added drama to the product, as it revealed members deep in the heart of the company. The most shocking reveals lighting the internet wrestling community on fire and taking inspiration from the past to build towards a new future. Rev your engines and cut the sleeves off your leather jacket, because when you ride with these folks, you never walk alone. This is the story of the Aces and Eights. On the June 14th, 2012 episode of the weekly Impact Wrestling TV show, the icon, known as Sting, would give his thoughts on his upcoming induction as the first person into the TNA Hall of Fame. As he stood in the ring, he would be attacked by 3 masked wrestlers. Fast forward to the July 5th episode, then TNA manager Hulk Hogan in kayfabe is backstage in his office when an unnamed man delivers an envelope. Hogan opens the envelope, which contains a photograph of Aces and Eights playing cards and a note. The note reads, "See you next week. We're not cowards. We've got something for you, Hogan. Wait and see." Aces and Eights is known as the Dead Man's Hand, with most attributing it to the final cards held by Wild Bill Hickok. Bill was a lawman and legendary gunfighter from the old Wild West. According to author Frank Wilstock's 1926 book, Wild Bill Hickok, The Prince of Pistoliers, a pair of Aces and Eights, along with an unknown whole card, were thought to be the final hand he held when he was shot in the back of the head by Jack McCall while playing a card game. If you've watched the HBO series Deadwood, then you may have seen an adaptation of this already. The Aces and Eights hand was also used by the Las Vegas Metro Police Department Homicide as part of their official logo up until about 2015, and the Armed Forces Medical Examiner up until 2012. Aces and Eights would return the next week on the July 12th episode of Impact to attack both Sting and Hulk Hogan. The attack would leave Hogan in storyline with a pelvic fracture. In real life, this was a way to write Hogan off TV, while the Immortal One was recovering from back surgery to help with his overall pain management. The next few weeks, the faction would attack and interfere in matches of, interestingly, both faces and heels. On August 12, 2012, TNA would hold its Hardcore Justice pay-per-view. They would appear in a backstage segment at the show and attack D'Angelo Dinero backstage in a vicious attack. This was again a way to let Dinero get some time to heal a shoulder injury in real life. Later on in the evening, they would interfere in a 4-way tables match in the ongoing Bound for Glory series. The winner of that match would get 20 points, and the winner of the whole series would get a future shot at the TNA World Heavyweight Championship at Bound for Glory pay-per-view in October 2012. The group would attack Jeff Hardy and Bully Ray. The winner of this match would be Bully Ray. The damage had been done, and the Aces and Eights had made their mark and pay-per-view debut. Aces and Eights would change their focus and target the then TNA World Heavyweight Champion Austin Aries on the August 23, 2012 episode of Impact Wrestling. They would attack several members of the TNA roster, and in the ensuing mayhem would injure the right arm of Aries. They would continue their attack just 1 week later, when this time they would knock Aries unconscious with a foreign object. Fast forward to the No Surrender pay-per-view. On September 9, 2012, Austin Aries would challenge any member of the Aces and Eights to a fight. He had singled out the large and imposing member of the group who had injured his arm, known as the Armbreaker. Following their fight, the Aces and Eights would interfere, leading to the TNA locker room spilling out to even up the odds. During this attack, the Armbreaker would injure the shoulder of Jeff Hardy. This attack was before his Bound for Glory series finals match against Bully Ray later on in that night's main event. Jeff Hardy would go on to win that match. In turn, he would get a TNA World Heavyweight Championship match against Austin Aries at Bound for Glory 2012. Bound for Glory 2012 was a big night for the Aces and Eights. They would wrestle their first official match in TNA. Two unnamed members of the stable would face off against Sting and Bully Ray in a no disqualifications tag team match. If the Aces and Eights won, they would have unrestricted access to the Impact Wrestling Zone. Until now, they were always met by security or of course other TNA wrestlers looking to keep them out. If Sting and Bully Ray won, then the Aces and Eights agreed to leave TNA for good. Of course, there was a healthy amount of interference from two other members of the Aces and Eights. They would pick up the win against the TNA wrestlers and win their access. After the match, one of the two members who interfered revealed to be none other than Dvon. Dvon, of course, one half of one of the longest running and decorated tag teams of all time, alongside Bully Ray. This sent shockwaves through the roster, as this was a TNA wrestler and blood brother to Bully Ray. Anyone could be a member, and we were off to the races. On an episode of Impact on October 18th, 2012, Dvon would explain his actions in an in-ring promo surrounded by the other still masked members. He said he was speaking for the gang, and he wore a vest with a name on it. The name, Sergeant at Arms. He started to threaten everyone on the TNA roster. TNA members came out from the back and started to brawl with the Aces and Eights. Sting would challenge Dvon to a match later on that night. Sting would win that match when the Aces and Eights, now of course with access to the Impact Zone, would interfere, giving Sting the DQ victory. The match didn't matter, it seems. The Aces and Eights had made themselves heard. The October 25th, 2012 episode of Impact would feature a backstage segment where the Aces and Eights told us they would target their next victim by throwing a dart at a series of photos of different TNA wrestlers. The dart hit a picture of Kurt Angle. Kurt had just lost a TNA World Heavyweight Championship match against Jeff Hardy. Jeff had beaten Austin Aries in the main event of the Bound for Glory pay-per-view and the then TNA World Heavyweight Champion. In that same episode, Bully Ray would confront his brother Dvon over his actions and affiliation to the Aces and Eights. Dvon would tell him that it was mistreatment by Hulk Hogan, and that's why he joined the group. Dvon would tell Bully Ray that they were no longer brothers. Bully would call Dvon a coward and challenge him to a match on the Open Fight Night episode of Impact on November 1st, 2012. November 1st was Open Fight Night, and Bully Ray would face his former tag team partner Dvon. The match was over, the fight hadn't ended, and members of the Aces and Eights would battle members of the TNA roster. During the melee, Joseph Park would unmask one of the men. Joseph Park was wrestling unmasked during this period and switched between the personas of Abyss and Joseph Park, which is a whole other story which we won't go into here. In part, this was a homage to his hardcore hero and wrestling legend Mick Foley with his 3 Faces of Foley. Joseph Park would reveal this man to be Drew Hankinson. Drew would be familiar to most at the time as the recently released from the WWE Luke Gallows, part of CM Punk's Straight Edge Society. Many of you will also remember him for his time as part of the tag team Jesse and Festus in the WWE. Who can forget their theme music of Biscuits and Gravy? Who can forget the terrible Festus gimmick? But that's all we have for this time. Quick question, were you watching Impact during this time or were you out of the loop? Join us next time for the Aces and Eights Part 2, The Doc Makes an Impact. A special thank you to our new Patreons over on patreon.com/FoulOriginal. As of the middle of April 2020, these videos are partially funded by people like you over on my Patreon. You'll see their names on screen right now. This episode was released first to the folks over on Patreon as early access content before it hits YouTube. Become one of Foul Original's pals, or as we call them, FOPs. If you join our community, you can get behind the scenes content and a chance to see regular exclusive content you won't see here on YouTube. Head to patreon.com/FoulOriginal and pick your tier. The tiers start from $1 and may not seem like much, but your support means a hell of a lot. It's like you've given me a vote of confidence. If you can't, then sharing this video really helps too. Like the video if you did, subscribe and hit the bell if you would, share if you can. This has been a Foul Original. Thanks for watching. See you next time.